So today I'm going to attempt to repair some of the issues that we had over the last couple of weeks. It's been about 2 weeks since I did that last shakedown ride. I ordered a new coil here, a 5 ohm. Got this from Dennis Clark. And these, everything falling off here. These are the same wires. They seem to be okay. No issues with those. I'm going to go ahead and use those again. Got a little bit of stuff on here which came out of that old coil. I'll just pull that off. So, if you remember, we were driving along pretty nice, and the coil here just started to go. So I'm going to go ahead and take this off, replace this coil, and a couple other things. I want to take a look at the spark plugs and see how they did. I have a new grip I'm going to put on here. I wouldn't say it's new. I have this grip here, and I have the other side to that, and I had to order some I think it's 1/4 32 set screws to put the other hand grip on there. So I'm going to try to get that accomplished today as well. And finally, this isn't a major issue because I have a kickstart. Found my ground wire came off down here. Where did it go? It's just hanging free here. So this is something I'm going to have to reattach. Got to find out where the screw actually popped off because I had this in here. The way this is mounted, the solenoid has to be grounded, but it's not grounded because of the way the oil tank gets mounted with a piece of rubber, and you lose. It's essentially isolated from the rest of the bike. So I created this ground strap, and I need to figure out where that popped off and put it back on there. I think the issue had to do with just not enough Loctite on the bolt. These handlebars, they tend to move on me. If I pull them too hard, this comes loose, and so I need to tighten these down. I might need to take this apart, put a piece of metal in here just to get a better grip. And then of course, you know, these bushings here need to be replaced. Finally, I have this. This is a GPS speedo and a tack. The speed seems correct. The tack is way off. So I'm going down the road. I'm probably at like 2,500, 3,000 RPM, but it's reading 8. It's peg. So I think that's just a dip switch. I'll go get my tools, set up my camera. We'll get started on fixing these few little issues here. Alright, we'll start by taking off this cover. A little Allen wrench here. There's a screw on the bottom and on the top. All I have to do is loosen these. Let's go ahead and start with that one. So here we go. These are not sliding out as easy as I thought it would. Okay. That's really dirty in there. A lot of oil. Looks like from the previous ride. I'll go ahead and take this off. I'm going to have to grab some different tools because apparently I have the wrong size wrench. I'm going to need a 7/16. So, I don't know if you can see that, but this is a Harley Davidson coil, that blue. And you can see here what a mess that made. I'm going to go ahead and replace that with this coil that I got. And this coil, it's not labeled, but this is a 5 ohm coil. I really don't know what the old one is. There is a part number on there. It's hard to really read it. It might be 5 ohms, but I'm going to look up this part number and see, because if this is for an electronic ignition, it's probably a 3 ohm. I switched over to points. Maybe go, who knows? I may go back to electronics sometime in the future, but for now, I'm going to go with the points. And hopefully get back on the road soon. So let's put this back on. I'm going to go ahead and thread this through on the bottom first. Using nylox here. Keep parts from rattling off that I actually may need to replace later. Now I'm going to go ahead and tighten this up. Tighten it. So I did measure the ohms. It comes to 4.8. So that's nominal, I suppose, for 5 ohms. You know anything about electronics, 5 ohms and 3 ohms isn't very far apart, but make a huge difference when you're dealing with these large differences in inductance. So one thing to know when you're dealing with points versus electronic ignition, 5 ohms is going to give you less current on the input side. Less current on the input side is going to translate to less chance of blowing up your coil. The lower the ohms, the higher the current. The more chance you have of frying things. So with electronic ignition, you generally don't need to have, well, you don't need to have a lot of current for either one. Let's see, this goes down here. But keep in mind that as you step voltage up on the output side, you're stepping current up on the input side. So with the same amount of voltage difference and different ohms, your current's going to change. So you're going to have more current with a lower resistance on the input side. And this, of course, could cause, you know, parts to fail. So the higher ohms will give a lower current, still get a pretty good output that we need. I forgot the ground strap here. Let's go over here. And less chance of blowing up parts. So let's put this piece on. Here's the feed from the points. And in the future, if I go to an electronic ignition, I may need to swap this out with a 3 ohm coil. That just depends on the ignition system I get. May be compatible with this coil, but if I am going to spend money on a big ignition system like that, I'm probably going to go ahead and spend the extra money and replace the coil as well, something that matches. You definitely want to have, when you're dealing with any kind of inductance like this, you talk about impedance, you need impedance matching, not getting too far into the weeds. This gives you the best efficiency. But as you can see, as the coil heats up, because of more current causes more heat causes what? Causes the coil to blow up. And I don't care, it's a little bit of grease on it. Important to know too that this bike was an Evolution engine and the ignition system was an electronic ignition. When I built this bike, I took the entire electrical system off. I rewired it from scratch, 4 points. I used the same terminal block that Harley used because it seemed to work out quite good. It's just a matter of having to put new connectors and cleaning them. and that's under the seat. I kept most of the wiring the way Harley had it because of the front controls, the hand controls and all that are essentially, you know, OEM style. In the future, I'll probably rewire this bike if I decide to go with a more slim style. Clean, I should say. Alright. So now I'm going to take a look at the spark plugs. Chocolatey. There's your rear plug. I am by no means an expert on this, but this might seem to be okay. Maybe a little rich. I don't know. Well, it only put 15 miles on these plugs. So I think we might need more time. Oh yeah, see, that's not so bad. I can live with that. Alright. Yeah. That gooey stuff on there. I feel like that's not seating properly. These don't seem to sit in there properly. Huh. That could be a problem. Alright, well, my other GoPro overheated, and I have to look at it to see where we left off. But in case you missed it, these were not fitting properly into the respective holes. So I took these on the bench and I expanded these a little bit. They were kind of smushed in. I took a center punch and pushed it in there to let them expand out. So let's take a look now and see if they fit properly. Nope. Alright, so most likely I'm going to have to replace these wires. What I did for now, I pushed this boot back to get this to pop up out a little bit, and I also expanded this so that now it's much further out. It's touching both sides. It's staying in there. The boot's holding it in. Will it work? Nah, probably. But I think I'm going to have to get new wires, figure out why they won't fit into this one, what's the difference between the OEM and this one. I'm going to have to call Dennis Kirk and say, what are the correct wires? But we'll put this in there for now and see if it starts. At least we'll know that there's no other problems caused by the coil failure if it does start. So for now, we'll just go ahead and plug this in. And although that's not how I would like to see it fit, I don't think that's going to come apart. Maybe we'll lose some spark. Anyway, move over and wire up the starter that fell apart. And then what's next? We'll replace this hand grip. Okay, so this wire here needs to go to ground. That's connecting over to the solenoid right down here. You can see I have another ground strap which connects the base of the solenoid. You can see the bottom here where my finger is. This chassis is essentially has to be grounded. Okay, it is ground. To It's also isolated, so that's why you have to have this jumper. So this particular lead jumps to here to ground out this. This whole tank is rubber mounted, and so this is not grounded. It's completely isolated from the rest of the bike. And so in order to have my starter solenoid ground connection, it needs to go somewhere else, right? So maybe I'll go here. Let me show you here what I mean. I have my voltmeter here, and I just have it on continuous tone for short circuit. Okay, so if you notice, if we just go up here to the tank somewhere and we touch the ground somewhere, you got nothing. There's no, right? Now you have it because the tank is connected to this ground strap. Ground strap is not connected to the chassis of the bike. So now what I need to do is find a place to connect it, which I think I'm going to use this spot right here. You know, that's just the starter. I have this little bracket here just as a way of holding the starter up. So I'm going to connect that ground strap there. Originally I had it connected up. I don't know if you can see. There's screws at the top here where the tank gets mounted via a rubber bushing to the chassis. That screw only sticks out about 1/4 of an inch, and that's where I had this attached previously. And I didn't put Loctite on it because Loctite would insulate the connection and you would lose your connectivity. So of course that fell off because you can't run a Harley without Loctite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it down here onto this bottom, and I'm going to put it behind. Let's see if you can see here. It's going to go behind this washer, and then I'm going to put Loctite on this bolt, and so that the ground connection will be between these two parts. And that's all you need. I mean, it's a solenoid. It's a 12-volt solenoid. We're not putting 60 amps through this wire. This is simply only to trigger the solenoid. It needs very little current for as long as you're holding the button. So I don't know why they have this giant ground strap on here, but it is what it is. So let me take care of that, and hopefully that will take care of our starter issue. Now, I got to replace the starter Bendix on this as well. The fact that it's a kickstart and it starts up really easy on the kickstart, I'm probably not going to waste my time. So, generally speaking, if the Bendix doesn't catch, I just kind of roll the bike forward a 1/4, you know, not even 1/8 of a wheel turn, and then it catches. So, the amount of money it'll take to fix that, the time and effort to fix that, it's just not worth. I can just roll the bike forward a little bit and do what I need to do. So now let's check to see if we have our ground connectivity now. So here's our meter, and if I go to the ground somewhere on the bike and I go to my tank, I have continuity. And that means that I now have continuity for the starter, and then my starter switch should work. Alright, I've already tried pulling this grip off. It took a lot of wrestling to get it off. It was glued on. It has rubber in here, but you know, I can twist this and it should break loose again. I only put it back on because I didn't have the right screws to connect the other grip that I have. And that's it. So I had to buy these screws. These are 1032 by 1/4 inch, and they have a little spike on the end. I actually bought a set that doesn't have the spike on the end, but I figured I would try these. I figure you look down in there, you can see the spike protruding through there. I figured that would give me better holding power. In the end, what I can do as well is just transfer these holes and then drill a hole. And then that'll give that little spike somewhere to sit. But for now, I'm just going to put these on bit just so I can get them started. Okay, so let's do that. Yeah, that seems to be gripping pretty good, but you know, when you're ripping down the road, you're holding on pretty tight, especially with this stage 4 shovel head engine. Yeah, you know, this could twist, so I don't want that to happen. Now I just have to close this gap. I'll loosen these up, slide them down. Okay, this is certainly not the right screws for this, but that's what was there, so I used it. I didn't have anything else. Eventually, you know, I'll go and I'll get the correct screws. I don't know if this is a Harley design or if it's just something that happened throughout the years as people worked on the bike. But two different screws here, and these are flathead screws, which probably should be Allen. That gap could be smaller. I'm not going to sweat it. So got the new coil. With hopefully these will work. I don't have a good feeling about them, but it looks like I'm going to have to buy new wires. And then of course we fixed the solenoid issue, so I need to go grab my keys so I can see if this thing's going to start. Alright, here's the moment of truth. I'm going to go ahead and stick the keys in it, see if the starter works, and see if it starts. Either way, I'm probably going to have to replace those spark plugs because they don't exactly fit. Alright. We got power. We're in neutral. We go ahead and give it a few pumps of gas. And let's see if it starts. Ready? We have starter motor. Okay, you can see the Bendix isn't checking in, so let me go ahead and move the bike a little. Okay, take this out for another ride. If I can do the full 15-mile round trip, that would be awesome. There's a couple other things I need to do though. I don't know if you noticed this. So this is a little annoying. I like having running boards, but as you can see, they don't sit right. They kind of sit out like that, and they need to sit more like so. So I have a way. I probably just put a wedge in there, or what I'm thinking I might do is actually thread like a little post in there that I can screw in and out down in here. Then I can adjust where that stop is. Right now the stop is too low. I need to stop a little bit higher, barely a little higher. It's not a major issue. I can still ride the bike, but it just kind of feels weird because my feet feel like they're kind of sticking out. I need to have them more straight up and down. Like I said, it's not going to prevent me from riding the bike, but certainly would, you know, make it a little bit more comfortable. Now, of course, you can see these triple trees. You can see how these are a little curved in. That's a problem. I'm going to have to replace these bearings and eventually deal with this. Still not a deal killer. It's not going to prevent me from being able to ride. It just has, something I need to be aware of. I jerk the wheel or jerk the bars when I'm trying to move the bike. I can end up moving that out of whack. It's usually easy to slam the bar back the other side and pull these bars, and then they kind of straighten out. So, like any whole Harley project, this will probably never end. But at least I finally got to the point where it's running and it's not leaking oil. Dealt with a few problems in the last shakedown. Probably had more problems in the next shakedown. But that's what this is all about. It's the fun and the exhilaration of getting out on these bikes, and I put this together with my own bare hands, and that exhilaration of knowing it can kill you at any moment. Still, thank you for watching, and hopefully we'll get this on the road soon for the actual new shakedown ride. Thank you.